9 years is a long time to wait for a sequel, and Disney knew it. When Zootopia first landed in theaters in 2016, it didn't just win the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. It cracked something open in the culture. It was smart, layered, and politically brave in a way that animated films rarely dare to be. The city of talking animals who struggled with prejudice, systemic bias, and identity felt less like a children's fantasy and more like a mirror held up to the real world. So when Disney finally confirmed that Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde were coming back, the expectations weren't just high. They were almost impossibly so. Now, with Zootopia 2 officially hitting screens in 2025, the question the entire internet has been asking is the same one critics have been scrambling to answer. Was the wait worth it? The short answer is complicated. The long answer is the movie itself. The sequel picks up roughly 1 week after Judy and Nick officially became partners on the Zootopia Police Department. That detail alone raised eyebrows before a single frame was screened. In the original film, Judy Hopps spent the better part of the story proving herself as the city's first rabbit officer, working from near obscurity to cracking a conspiracy that reached the highest office in Zootopian government. Yet in the opening scenes of the sequel, both she and Nick are still classified as rookies and ordered to sit quietly while veteran officers handle the real cases. Fans and critics quickly pointed out the logical inconsistency. If Judy was already a rookie in the first film, and Nick has since graduated from the police academy, how are they both still on the bottom rung of the department? The film offers no explanation, and the oversight has become one of the most talked about points of contention in early reviews. The story gains momentum when Zootopia finds itself in the middle of a city-wide celebration, marking the 100th anniversary of the invention of the famous weather walls, the massive climate control infrastructure that allows animals of every species and every environment to coexist within the same city. The walls, which allow a tropical rainforest to exist right next to a tundra district, are presented as Zootopia's greatest technological achievement and the very foundation of its civic identity. What begins as a festive ceremonial occasion at the museum quickly turns into a crime scene when a snake suspect drops from a chandelier and attempts to steal the Lynxal Journal, a priceless historical artifact that has sat untouched in a display case for nearly a century. Judy and Nick defy their orders and give chase, setting off a sequence through the streets of Sheepshire that has already drawn praise from audiences for its kinetic energy and humor. The pursuit ends messily, the snake escapes, and in the chaos that follows, the two officers find themselves framed for an attack on the police chief, and the theft of the journal itself accused of crimes they were actively trying to prevent. With the Lynxley family, one of Zootopia's oldest and most powerful dynasties, controlling the flow of information and applying pressure on the department, Judy and Nick are forced to go rogue, operating outside the law to clear their names, while simultaneously trying to unravel whatever it is the snake was actually after. At the center of the conspiracy is a discovery that reframes the entire history of Zootopia as its citizens know it. The weather walls, it turns out, were not invented by Ebenezer Lynxley, the patriarch whose legacy has been celebrated, memorialized, and taught in schools for generations. They were invented by a woman named Agnes, whose original patent was stolen by Lynxley more than a century ago. The Lynxal Journal, the very artifact the snake was attempting to retrieve, is Agnes's personal record, the one remaining piece of evidence capable of proving the theft and dismantling the Lynxley family's reputation entirely. The snake's motivations, which initially seemed sinister, shift considerably once the full picture comes into view. The reptile community, long stigmatized and distrusted in the aftermath of a violent incident that occurred 100 years prior, has been waiting for this moment of exoneration. Agnes's journal is not just a historical document, it is a key to vindication for an entire population that has been living under the shadow of a crime they may not have committed. The film's treatment of this central theme, the rehabilitation of a maligned group through the exposure of historical injustice, is ambitious and, at points, genuinely affecting. Nick Wilde's complicated feelings about the reptile community, shaped by deep-rooted biases that the film acknowledges run counter to everything the first Zootopia stood for, add a dimension of personal conflict that goes beyond the surface-level buddy cop dynamic. Critics have noted, however, that the script does not always give this tension the room it needs to breathe. The philosophical argument between Judy's idealism and Nick's realism, her belief that the world can be made better through brave and principled action against his more guarded, streetwise pragmatism, is established early as the emotional spine of the sequel, but the two rarely seem to actually pull in different directions. For long stretches, they work in seamless harmony, which makes the moments when the script insists on dramatizing their disagreement feel artificially constructed rather than organically developed. The investigation leads Judy and Nick through a series of encounters. A mouse crime boss, operating from an elaborately decorated urban hideout, a helpful beaver with expert knowledge of reptile biology, a pair of mountain goats encountered at improbably convenient timing near a water pipe exit, and eventually a dilapidated estate that has been sealed beneath a protective dome for decades. The house, preserved in uncanny stillness, as though its occupants only just stepped out, is where Agnes's original patent is finally found, hidden inside a clock tower that has not been turned on in over a century. The Linksley family, on the verge of seeing their entire legacy dismantled, escalates from legal maneuvering to outright threats, though several critics have pointed out that their villain turn comes rather abruptly, given how long the film seems to be building towards something more nuanced. The climax has drawn a divided response. The action sequences are inventive, and there are moments of genuine wit, including a callback to Nick's carrot-shaped voice recorder from the first film, which the movie takes considerable time to examine and poke fun at, acknowledging that audiences have spent 9 years wondering exactly how a single novelty vegetable manages to function as a studio-grade recording device, a limitless storage medium, and a precision playback tool all at once. The humor lands. The emotional payoff, centered on Nick risking his life to save Judy after she is bitten by the snake, is earnest if a little rushed. The bond between the two characters, now explicitly framed as the most important relationship either of them has, is sweet, though some have raised the point that the two have technically known each other for only a matter of months, with Nick spending the majority of that time at the academy, which makes the weight the film places on their connection feel somewhat outpacing the relationship's actual history. Commercially, there is no question that Zootopia 2 has done what sequels are supposed to do. The film has already crossed $1.8 billion globally, a figure that puts it comfortably among the top-grossing animated releases in Disney's modern era. Whether audiences went in expecting a worthy continuation of one of the studio's most thoughtful stories, or simply wanted to spend more time in the beautifully rendered world of Zootopia, regardless of the narrative's fidelity to its own logic, the numbers suggest that both camps showed up. A post-credits scene, a single feather discovered in an undisclosed location, has already set off weeks of speculation about a third entry, with most pointing toward a storyline involving even larger forces operating in the shadows above the Linksley conspiracy. What Zootopia 2 does best, and what audiences seem most willing to forgive its inconsistencies for, is the sheer pleasure of returning to a world that feels alive, with detail, warmth, and genuine personality. The city itself remains one of the most imaginatively constructed settings in contemporary animation. The voice performances are committed and charming, and however imperfect the sequel's machinery may be, the plot conveniences, the logical gaps, the villain whose plan depends on an implausibly long string of assumptions working out in sequence, there is something undeniably enjoyable about watching two characters, this well-matched, work a case together through chaos, danger, and occasional absurdity. Whether Zootopia 2 is the sequel that the original deserved is a debate that is still very much alive. What is harder to argue is that it is a sequel people wanted, and in a crowded, sequel-saturated release landscape, that appetite is something Disney clearly has no intention of wasting. So here is the question worth sitting with. Do you think Zootopia 2 lives up to the original, or does it fall into the same trap as so many beloved sequels big enough to matter, but not quite bold enough to earn it? Drop your take in the comments below. If you have been following this series and want more deep dives into the films that have the whole internet talking, make sure you like this video, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and let us know which animated sequel you think actually got it right. We read every single one.